Muhammad built this whole idea of being hostile toward the Jews. And I don't care how bad this sounds, but lots of people are lying nowadays when they say, "Oh, I grew up a Muslim and I never learned about hating Jews and all that." That's bullshit. I'm sorry. You have the there is the anti-Jewish attitude is so rampant and so dominant in the Muslim world. Most Muslims don't like Jews. Most Muslims hate Jews. Most Muslims are taught bad things about Jews. Most Muslims learn that Jews were the ones who are the worst toward Muhammad and Islam, and that most Jews eventually, before the Day of Judgment, will be eradicated by Muslims. They still believe that. Hamas believes and preaches the same thing. When Hamas came into existence in 1988, one of their main ideas was that the PLO, the Palestinian Liberation Organization, when they started cooperating with Israel and working toward a two-state solution, Hamas came in and said, "How dare you? This is treason. You are not supposed to deviate from our goal to take the entirety of the land and to eradicate the Zionists and the Jews." So that's how they started getting power. And they still preach the same thing. They still preach to this day that in Arabic, not in English, of course, but in Arabic, that soon they will somehow succeed and kill the Jews and eradicate them and start the caliphate again there. This is what Fatih Hamad, Hamas speaker in Gaza, also in charge of the state television, Al-Aqsa TV. He said this back in 2018 to his own crowd during the what was it called, the peaceful March of Return. During that, he said to his people, "In 4 years, brothers and sisters, we will have fulfilled our goal of eradicating the filth of the Jews from Palestine, and the second step is to build the caliphate." That's what he was saying. Unfortunately, 4 years have passed. It didn't happen, probably because COVID slowed things down.
Why do people, oh goodness, why do people believe that Hamas is a resistance group and not a terrorist group?
Because they're stupid and they're ignorant. That's it. Hamas literally stands for Islamic Resistance Movement. They use the word resistance there to legitimize them as a resistance movement, but it literally stands for that Islamic resistance movement. In their covenant, in their charter, they laid it out very clearly that the presence or authority of any other religion besides Islam in the land is oppression, and they are meant to resist against that. So, and they are meant to resist against Zionism, against the Zionist authority, Zionist freedom, Zionist whatever it is, and that the only thing acceptable to them is that Islam rules in this land, and everyone else is a subject of Islam, and that the Jews are evil, and the Jews have this idea of subverting the whole world, and they were relying on things like the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, which is a long debunked hoax.
Okay, what does the general, if you could speak for, obviously you don't know every Muslim in the world, but what is the sentiment among Muslims about Hamas? What were the Turkish people thinking about Hamas? What are your friends thinking about this?
There is a split of half of them. In a country like Turkey, for example, you would say that half of the population would say that they dislike Hamas, that they don't want Hamas. The other half would be between somewhat supporting and fully supporting Hamas, at least in their effort to fight against Israel and the Jews. In more religious Muslim societies, you will have more support for Hamas, but the general idea around the world right now is that whatever you think of Hamas doesn't matter that much. What matters right now is that they are fighting a just war against the Jews, against the Zionist oppressors. So this is what.
So they may not agree with all of what Hamas wants to do, but they justify it because, well, as long as you take out the Jews, and then we'll deal with Hamas later.
The funny thing is, Hamas is much more popular among Muslims than Hezbollah is, for example, where Hezbollah seems to be is supposed to be the more acceptable one compared to Hamas. Hamas is purely terrorist. Hezbollah works as part government, part terrorist organization. But Hezbollah also participated in oppressing Sunni Muslims in Syria and things like that, for example, and are a direct proxy of Iran. Hamas is also nowadays a proxy of Iran, but they weren't initially. And So they have something in common with Hamas, and they see them. They say they see a Palestinian resistance as a justified thing. So they will support Hamas more than they support something like Hezbollah, for example, despite their disagreements.
After coming to Israel, visiting Israel, seeing the people, touring around, you got video, all these things. What did you think about how Jews and Muslims live in Israel together? What did you see?
That's the one thing that I'm still very confused about, and that I still don't know how to really respond to, because for most of the time I have said Islam is the problem. You need to recognize it, call it out as it is, and so on. And when I interact with Jews in Israel, what really surprises me is that lots of Jews in Israel don't think that Islam is that big of a problem. Many Jews in Israel, when I talk to them about Islam, tell me, oh, Islam is not that bad and all that. And I think, are you kidding me? My entire life, I was taught that you are monsters, that you are evil, and you tell me that Islam is not a problem.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the problem is that Israel seems to have a good way of handling internally, togetherness and tolerance and all that, because there is even a poll, a Pew research poll from years ago, where it asks those in the West Bank, in Judea and Samaria, and in Gaza about what they think of Jews. And over 90%, I think 98, 99% say they dislike Jews. And then they ask Muslims inside Israel what they think of Jews, and 61% or 60% say they view Jews favorably. This is the highest opinion of Jews anywhere across the Muslim world.
Wow.
You have it of Muslims who actually live inside Israel. They seem to mostly not have a problem with Jews at all. And when you go into the streets and ask them, there is this one guy, Corey Gil Schuster. He does these amazing videos where he goes around asking people questions in Israel. The Israeli Muslims seem to be quite okay with Jews and with Israel, and they seem to not aim toward a full destruction of Israel, because Israel apparently seems to handle this whole mutual understanding and whatever it is. And the thing is, when I now go out there and talk to people about how Islam is the root of the problem, there is just one conflict, which is, yes, this is true on every front to me, but when I look at Israel, how am I supposed to? Why would I go to Israel and tell a Muslim and say to them that Islam is the problem, and break up what they are doing in Israel with the Muslims, which seems to be working?
Yeah.
And it's still something that I'm quite confused and conflicted about.
So, well, I know you said you're still confused, but so that's what I'm saying. Do you think there is this tolerance somewhere in Islam, and that, those in Hamas and PLO, it's just radical? Or you're just saying Islam is just radical and you can't understand how the Jews and Muslims who live in Israel get along because we're with a radical group?
That one is more accurate.
Okay.
I wouldn't say that Hamas is radical, or that Hamas and the others terrorist organizations are like necessarily very radical. They are just a natural result of what Islam is. In fact, Hamas came out of the Muslim Brotherhood effort of reviving Islam, because Palestinian society to them had lost faith too much and was getting secularized, which was a problem.
Right.
So their attempt was to bring Islam back and foster Islam, and they did a good job in reviving Islam, honestly, among the Gazans. But Islam is that way. Islam is that way. But in Israel, maybe despite the fact that Islam is inherently, hateful and all that, maybe if you start living together with Jews, you understand, wait a minute, okay, they're not actually that bad. And maybe it helps fight against this whole sentiment, this whole hostile sentiment. And that's very, very nice to see. And I find it great what Israel has been doing. The bad thing is that there is still the underlying fundamental hatred and the idea, the doctrine of hating and wanting to kill the Jews.